Hello, everyone. Welcome. What's up, Ryan, Steve, Adam, everyone that is going to be watching at home now or later, people listening later. How you guys doing? Welcome to Hoops Hobby Hangout version number 23. This week, we are excited to talk about some of our collecting history in the 90s, or I guess not necessarily the 90s. I shouldn't make that assumption. Collecting history and how that may have or be currently influencing kind of the way we collect right now. So it's all about kind of how our past collecting history and nostalgia and all that stuff has turned us into the collectors we are now. As always, if you are interested in hanging out, you're welcome to via Instagram. We are on my Instagram, which is sac.kings.cards. And then we are also on YouTube. And so feel free to join in the chat, and there's a QR code here you can always scan, as well as I'm going to put the link into the chat on YouTube. So lots of that stuff. Please feel free to jump on. We all have a history or a background in collecting, and that have shaped us into the collectors we are today. So it's hopefully a conversation we can all make contributions to. Before we do that, just checking in with everyone. Are you guys all doing good? I know you guys are all in snowy-ish parts of the country. I don't know what the snow situation is like everywhere. Are you guys you're all here, so...
Yeah, I think you're the only one on the call that avoided the Arctic air that came through. And Ryan and I were talking about how we were ready for some snow, and I'm sure Adam got a little bit of ice or something that his part of the country wasn't looking forward to. But yeah, there's honestly about 2.5 feet of snow in my front yard right now from the one storm. We got another blizzard coming up, nor'easter rather, coming up the coast. But that's New England for you. I'll take the New England weather over most parts of the country. There's no earthquakes or droughts or forest fires or anything. We just have some winter weather to deal with for a couple weeks out of the year. But yep, making it through just fine.
Couple weeks, isn't it like 6 months?
Yeah, you would think that. No, the real winter weather is like mid-January up through mid-March. It's like an 8-week span and with like recently, the past few years haven't been that bad, but this year's looking to be like it'll be a long winter.
Nice. Well, that's good.
Yeah, we basically had 6 inches, I think, maybe 5 to 6, and I get it pretty heavy because I'm in the foothills, but it's all gone on east this year. It's crazy. We've had like 2 big snowstorms, which is crazy to be almost through January and not have a couple feet of snow, accumulated.
So. Yeah, it's funny. I was watching, not by my choice, I despise football, but I was watching the playoff game in Denver, and my sister, I called her and she was like, "Oh yeah, we didn't even know it was snowing until we were watching the playoff game." So
yeah, it's been pretty wild.
Yeah.
We surprisingly got over a foot in the last week or so, which is a lot for my neck of the woods. We get snow every year, but not usually that kind of quantity at once.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you guys are all, at least everything's operating properly. Hello to everyone that's hanging out in the chat, Sean and Mark, and then on Instagram, King Henry and Tutu Sports Cards. I hope you have safe travels over there, Mark and Ithaca. So hopefully everything's all safe there. Before we get into kind of the topic for the day, you guys have any updates or anything you want to share?
I got something. You guys are going to laugh at it. It's this 8x10 of Gallinari photo shoot. The reason I got it, though, is I love the auto. So his like full form first and last name. I mean, it's not full first and last name, but he resorted to just DG for Danilo Gallinari after a while. So finding these ones that actually have like his full auto is pretty cool. Like a $5 photo shoot photo. I don't even think it's authenticated or anything, but I don't care. I know it's real. Nobody's faking a $5 Gallinari photo. So that's my
he looks so young there. I mean, they always do in their rookie photo shoot, but I mean, he looks like he's 16 years old there.
I think they used this photo too for a card. I want to say it was a Topps card. I can't remember what set it was in, but yeah, they used that same photo in one of the releases that year. That what was it? 0809 when he was a rookie.
Did you listen to that Gallo interview on the Derek Way podcast that I sent you yet?
No, I've heard a couple clips. I still haven't found the time to like listen to the full thing. So
for those listening, Derek White grew up in Colorado. He has, like every other Mock Us included, has his own podcast now. So he had Gallo on, and they definitely did some full fanboying over Colorado and Denver. And I mean, Gallo truly loves the area. So I sent it to Ryan just so he could sit back and take a little bit of pride in his guy and his hometown.
We'll talk about it next week. I've been so busy. I just uploaded last week's episode to YouTube like 45 minutes ago. So.
You're fired.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
I'll kick you off this stage. No, I'm just kidding. Well, yeah, that's awesome. I love getting stuff like that. It's cool. Like, it's cheap. It's cool. Really, like, that was a bold, beautiful auto. So yeah, that's very cool.
You know, I'm probably not gonna frame it or anything like that. It'll just stay in the collection. But just something cool. I've been trying to go after cheap stuff anymore. Not spend too much on cards and whatnot. So,
I mean, other than Jokic, it must be nice then being Nuggets collector, right? Because there's so much cheap out there.
Yeah, well, the Tyson Beck stuff dropped today, and I was like, got the early access code because I bought from him before. So he's doing like the Joker. Now he acquired, I think, a game worn jersey. And that stuff was way priced out of anything that I'd be comfortable with. Now, given like the current market for Jokic, some of the stuff was okay, but a lot of it seemed like almost secondary prices on the stuff you pay for like Flawless or something for some of the patch autos and whatnot, which I was hoping they come in at like half, but oh well.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough to because that, I mean, he's popular. His stuff is popular. So,
yeah.
Now, are they putting him in those as like a Joker themed on the card, or?
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It is Joker themed. So some of them have like a half Joker face and a half his face, which I was
almost like almost like Two-Face, but with Jokic and the Joker. It's kind of cool.
I know you were really into it, Steve. I didn't particularly like those as much, but that's just personal preference. They are pretty cool. And then they have the Joker theme. He signed a couple of them with like the Joker inscription, and they're like tags and a little star piece or something of the. Oh yeah, here, Joey's pulling it up so we can check them out. They are pretty cool.
What I like about him, Ryan, is just the fact that so I remember reading about it when he during his first wave. So Tyson Beck is an artist from I think it's Australia, New Zealand, and he collaborates with musicians and etc. for custom artwork. And he started doing basketball cards, unlicensed, doing it his own thing. And I remember when he did his first 5-card wave, Jason Tatum had some autos and some custom cards in it. So I read an article about it. Really is a collaboration with the athlete, and the athlete gives like what inspires him as a player. So while like if that was just an AI generated image, I wouldn't. They're kind of busy. I don't love them, but the fact that it's a collaboration and an artist and an athlete work together, and the fact that he laid so heavily into the Joker theme, and he did it in it's unlicensed, so he's limited. He doesn't have DC, he doesn't have the Nuggets. I think the artistic value of it makes me appreciate the design a little bit more than like if it was just an AI, generated thing or, some, random person just doing it on Photoshop or something. It's so I get why not everybody's into them, but I think the collaboration aspect of it makes them pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Are you pulling it up, Joey?
Oh, did it not come up?
Nope, we just see your beautiful face.
I saw you trying to pull it up, but I don't think it actually got on the stream. It's not a big deal, but yeah, his cards are pretty cool.
Can you see that now or no?
I can see it that you joined it, but here, hold on. Here we go.
Oh yeah, there you go.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're pretty cool.
I saw recently that they did like maybe it's called a manga or something like that of him as the Joker. Those look pretty cool. Maybe Optic, I want to say, but they look pretty neat. But they sell for absurd money. The same with there's like a Curry one of him cooking, like Chef Curry. Like it's kind of a neat play on it, but they sell for absurd money. Like I can't even comprehend that people paying that.
Like $10,000 and stuff.
I think the Curry in a tin's like 25 or 30 grand.
Yeah, insane.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I like the ones that are not personally Joker, but I mean, it's crazy because what you have a total of 24 cards. I mean, that's it. So
yeah, so those like tag ones limited to 4. I think when I first got on there, I got in with like a minute of the early access. I think they had some other tier that was like before that too. But those were, $3,500, which in the grand scheme of things is not that bad. I think maybe the tags were $4,000, but given what the secondary market's going for, like flawless of the same level, not terrible. But I'm a cheap collector, so
yeah,
this isn't going to be good for all.
Yeah,
this is more video only. But Joey, can you go back to that tag one, because I appreciate, or even any of the. If you click, he shows all 4 copies. So if you click on the preview, so
that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
and so you can see the game date. You can see the game dated, so it's a handwritten game date, 10/24. So he's chronicling on his website each of the game used pieces. I hadn't seen that before because I haven't looked into any of his relic stuff. I really appreciate that. So he shows every individual card.
You have like a chance to get the tag version too, because apparently when you order this, it's one of the cards there. Yeah, see that tag version at the bottom there. You have a chance to get that one. I think maybe in multiple tiers or something. I thought that was kind of cool. So he didn't sell that one outright. You just have a chance to get it. But yeah, I mean those drops are pretty cool, and fully licensed by the player or however he does it. I'm not sure how he does it specifically, but he uses the photos in a way that it doesn't look stupid, like some Photoshop job that's just move the jersey number down and blow it up or something.
Yeah, I mean, he does a good job of just avoiding like that chest area where the team name usually is, for sure.
I mean, the designs look, I'm just going to say it, 1,000 times better than anything's top has done so far and probably ever will do. Fanatics at the helm.
Wow, look at young Jokic right there. Ooh, baby Jokic.
Yeah.
And actually, sorry, just to clarify, it seems like it's not 24 total. It seems like there's several that are numbered. These randomized patch autos, they could be any number, like 10 out of 10, out of 15, out of 20.
I think it says all cards numbered to 20 or under, but there's how many, 10 or something like that. But
looks like there's a total down here that you could figure out the total print run.
And they are game dated, so you got the jersey game dates, and that's another cool aspect of it.
Yeah, that is really cool. Nice. Well, cool. Anyone else got something to share?
I pulled up one of those Curry images just to show what I was referring to. I don't know if the screen's gonna pick up off my phone. But...
Yeah, those cards to me are just so ugly. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I think they're kind of neat. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily go chasing them or anything, but I think it's a neat kind of play on the nicknames of people. But I looked up the last sale of one, 42,000 for that. Is unbelievable.
That's insane, man.
To the moon, only up from here.
I think people are thinking they're going to be like the next Kabooms, because that's the hot thing with the younger. I don't know. I wouldn't say younger generation, just kind of like collectors now looking to buy something that's going to be worthwhile. And who knows if that's going to last. I think people are gravitating towards those because they're kind of like the Kabooms in the downtowns. At least that's kind of what I've seen. But who knows? I ain't dropping 40K on something like that. Go for it if you want.
Sean, do you want to elaborate? You're hoping for a horse collaboration, and you said it's not a joke. If you want to elaborate. What's up, Tim? Welcome.
Hey, hopefully I'm not too late. Got caught up with my Stony Brook Seawolves winning again, 4 in a row. So lost track of time. Sorry, guys.
Congratulations. Oh yeah, okay. Sorry, you meant a horse collaboration with Jokic. Yeah, that'd be cool. Pictures with
that's what I was gonna say I didn't get the reference, but now I do. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
I have several things that came in this week, so I'm gonna just rapid fire them. Just gonna like say it, show it, say it, show it. I'm just gonna go real quick. So one is a laser card. So from the 2024 lasers. So it's a Keegan Murray. So not the Sabonis, but still a good shot. Like the action shot. Red blue. It's out of 15.
Nice.
Another one is actually Adam put me onto a Stojakovic lot, a Peja lot that was on blowout. So here's a couple cards. Like it's a UD exclusive out of 100 with the hollow foil. I don't know if you can see
Those
the
are
hollow
nice.
foil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And then
04. Is that
I think that was
UD
04.
exclusive? Yeah,
Yeah.
I got a
And
couple of
then,
those of them. I guess they're cool.
you know, I really like the early 2000s top pristine jerseys. So, you know, this one is a flag kind of theme with his Serbia, Montenegro.
That's
So
cool.
those were just a couple. There's a few autos in there. This one I was surprised that I won actually from eBay. It's a Brad Miller 05 tops. It's like doing a terrible job focusing. But this is the 1 of 1, the silver parallel 1 of 1.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Little surprise there. And then the last thing is a quick story. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the Global Card Collectors podcast. It's a podcast run by John Istanbul Cards and Will, whose handle is escaping me right now. They focus on international card collecting, so throughout Europe and Asia and like Australia and stuff. But John was born and raised in Sacramento. He was in town recently. He visited from Turkey. He lives in Turkey now. He visited Sacramento and then eventually San Diego. So him and I we met up for lunch in San Diego over the weekend. We grabbed lunch while he was there, and he gifted me this card that he found during his time in Sacramento. It's a Bibby patch with it's like a really great patch on there. If I can get it,
That's
it's a
nice.
Court Authentics from 0405 Court Authentics.
Yep.
That's a great shot of Bibby too. You know, you don't see many centered of him like that. You know, like almost like a portrait shot.
Yeah.
What's that number 225?
It's numbered to 70.
Okay. Crazy.
So
That's
the
awesome.
difference there with the parallels is the foil. The foil kind of up here is differently colored. So I had a couple
And the foil matches the foil and the serial number on that card, right?
Yeah, I think it does. So I'd have to go back and check. And
that's how you can tell some of the like the bankruptcy ones that got serial numbered afterwards. Is, you know, if it's the red parallel, it should have red foil in the serial number. If it's the purple parallel, it should have purple's foil in the serial number. There's a lot of those were bankruptcy cards that got stamped afterwards. Doesn't mean they're not legit, but some of the short numbered ones people get a little posed on.
Liberal. I'll have to go back and check then. I didn't check on
I'm sure I'm not Bibby sells well, but I don't think people are going to fraudulently stamp an out of 70 Bibby card.
Oh yeah. No, I don't mean that one. I mean the other ones. But all right, very cool. Well, let's jump in and talk about kind of our topic for today. And I don't know. I mean, as somebody who didn't really collect, I collected I did a little bit of sports cards when I was a kid, but mostly I was doing Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! I think I'd alluded to that previously. So I thought of some things that I wanted to like ask you guys who were collectors in that time. I think I wanted to start because I don't know if you remember, Ryan, that Evan last week was asking you about your history cards. I know you said you started collecting the garbage pail cards when you were younger. Did you get into the history cards when you were older, or was that also like something you got into as a kid?
So I think that was Tim.
Was that Tim? Sorry, that was asking. Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's all good. I did pull some out because I knew we were going to go over it real quick. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but I was not collecting them as a kid, but I had probably history buffs in the family, I guess you could say. Like my grandfather was like a huge collector of just all kinds of stuff, like Life magazine, Boy's Life, National Geographic. He had like shelves and shelves of all that stuff, books, everything like that. So I would pick up some of his books. I would pick up some of these old magazines like National Geographic or even Life magazine and kind of ask him about it. So it wasn't really cards back then. It was just like general interest in it. So during the pandemic, when cards went crazy and I couldn't really afford the stuff that I wanted, I started going after some of these card sets. So this is the T68 set that I put together. This is a tobacco card set, but it has a lot of, significant figures from like history, right? So There's like Christopher Columbus, for example. I think that's Geronimo, like the Native American. There's Ben Franklin. I know they have like Lincoln, right?
That Henry Hudson's my favorite.
Yeah. And so these came out of a product called Royal Bengals cigars. They also made smoking tobacco, or no, I'm sorry, chewing tobacco. So like this back right here, you probably can't see it too well on the camera, but here's your little cigars, and then this back is the panhandle scrap. And I think, that's probably a good page to show because this is the Miner's Extra. So this is like pouch tobacco. This was like the chewing tobacco, and this was the cigar. So they had the same front, but the back would be based on what product you bought. So that's a 100 card set that came out in 2 different series, and they're relatively affordable. So if you look up Royal Bengals Heroes of History or Men of History, I think was the first one was called. The Heroes of History has like some women in it too. Like that's Molly Pritchard. There's like Betsy Ross in it and stuff like that. The lady that created the first American flag. So it's kind of cool. And it does give a little like blurb about what they did and what was significant about them. So that's kind of the first set that I chased. And then it kind of went off the rails, and I've got all kinds of other weird stuff in there too. This is like another tobacco set. They're like smaller sized, but you got like Mark Twain there and some other people. So
that's just how it goes, right? You get sucked in on one thing and it just goes crazy from there.
Exactly. I'm like, let me save some money and buy some other stuff rather than basketball cards, because it went nuts, and then I just spent all kinds of money on that crap. So, but it's kind of interesting because it does tell a story. And while I didn't really collect that as a kid, it was still history as a kid was something I was definitely interested, just almost due to talking to my grandfather and stuff like that, and probably my dad, about different things. So kind of gravitated toward that.
To make an odd little connection between tobacco cards that you're talking about kids collecting, have I ever told you about the 1950s candy cigarette Disney set?
No.
So in the 1950s, it was like 1953 or 55, they had in candy cigarette packs, they would put a Disney card just like they did in the 20s and 30s into like the cigarette packs back then. And it's such like a piece of Americana, but like clearly focused on getting kids to learn to stop buying cigarettes at a young age. It's a pretty popular set, and for Disney collectors, it's one of those ones that if you can find the cards in high grades, they have the 7 Dwarfs and all the characters from back then. But I just picture like some genius sitting around, post World War II, post Korean War, or whatever, and just being like, we know what's next. We got to start pumping these cigarettes out to kids, and they just recreated the same marketing ploy that they had for real cigarettes back in the 30s with some tobacco cards. They're just candy cigarette cards.
Ryan, that's an awesome set. I just love it every time you share a post about it. You said you completed it, or?
Well, I'm 2 cards away, but one's coming, and the other one is like, it's literally like I just keep passing it, and it's like a $20 card, but I'm trying to get one for 10 or something, I'm just cheap. Right. But it's really close.
So I'm curious. I got 2 questions. Are your sets like the general cards, not like the bigger cards in the set, but the average card is how much you think? I'm wondering. I may want to tackle it one day.
Average card probably between $5 and $20, I would bet, just really? Depending on condition. Yeah, so it's really not a. Yeah, it's not a heavily collected set. Like vintage non-sports in general is not either, but there are some sets that have an Abraham Lincoln card or a Washington card, and they've gone a little bit nuts. I'm trying to think of one of the ones that has gone a little bit nuts. I want to say like T11s or something. I can't remember the name, but there's some stuff, like everything else, unfortunately flippers get a part of it, so they buy them all up and then they grade them and then they try to keep selling them and pushing them out, and it's just kind of gone up and up over the years. But that's a cool one to get into because you can find a lot of them raw, you can find a lot of them lots, and then if you start it, let me know, because I probably have like 30-40 common doubles too, where I maybe got a lot and got a slightly upgraded copy or something like that. So fun set to start. I do have it documented over on the hobby boards if you want to check out my thread on it.
Yeah, you saw me on there today.
Yeah. Nice.
Nice. So do you guys have a particular place you want to start with kind of talking about our kind of childhood collecting, where it came from? Steve, do you have did you have a place in mind you were like wanting to jump off of?
Yeah, well, I just like Ryan was talking about his Garbage Pail Kids collection last week, and it just made me realize that we talk about, you hear a lot of times people talking about their hobby origin story and everything, but I just thought it'd be fun to, Ryan went back to what it was like collecting those cards as a kid, and what maybe he made some investments. I don't mean like money monetarily, but like time and organizational investments into getting some of the Chrome cards, as an adult, and not only just for the nostalgia factor, but he kind of went back to recollecting that stuff. So, and I also, we're all from different parts of the country, different ages. Adam's the only one without any sign of a receding hairline when he said 90s collectors as kids, because he definitely wasn't a 90s collector typically. But so what I was thinking, like I'm 44 years old. So for me as a kid, I came up in the junk wax era, right? So everything I grew up, my family introduced me to cards, and then I grew up on the basketball blacktop in the neighborhood. Just here, like you used to just hear about iconic cards. So like the kids that were older than me that had like second year Michael Jordan card, and I can still remember it. He had in this, I don't know, like this is a binder. I feel like his acrylic screw down was this size, and sitting in the middle of it was a second year Michael Jordan card, and it must have had some oil in it because eventually the card turned black. But you would just hear about like the older kids in the neighborhood that had these like rare cards, or Roger Clemens rookie. And so I just thought maybe like, we could all share a little bit about what we were collecting back then, how we were collecting, and some of the commonalities. And I know this could throw us down a rabbit hole of Ryan's negative Nancy commentary about cards at gas stations and the overproduction and junk slab era. But like for me, like most of my cards back, I'd say from the age of like 8 to 15 were either gas station pickups, stopping by local card shops and looking at stuff I couldn't afford and hoping to save up my pennies for like one pack of Skybox Emotion, or God bless my mom, who loved Shop at Home Networks and would get me like box sets of Classic, or she bought me this one hobby box once, probably from Don West. It was a multi-sport Classic product, and it had like Anthony Hardaway, Drew Bledsoe, like in their final year of their collegiate program. And I would just like sit and open it up and tear through it. At one point, she bought me a box set of 91 Courtside, and I pulled my first ever on-card auto. This is a player named Cedric Lewis, played for Maryland. Don't know who he is. I've had this card in this top loader ever since. This is actually a pretty popular set. It was highlighted by Larry Johnson. There's a UNLV Larry Johnson auto in this set. And I want to say there's also a Vets version of this. Like there might be a Bill Walton auto, maybe even a Larry Bird. I could be misspoken on that one. But that's my first ever on-card auto. I used to think, like, if you think back to the early 90s, you didn't know what you were collecting, and we all thought we were going to be rich, right? So I have, still in the same top loader, I have a promo card of Larry Bird that I pulled out of a VHS tape. But of course I kept in the cellophane package, because if it's in its original condition, then clearly it's going to be worth money someday, right? With a nice little jewel shamrock that I stuck on the top loader. Back then, redemption sets were real popular. So if you want to be grossed out, look at these top loaders. And I didn't grow up in a house that smoked. I've never smoked. This is just natural aging, fine bourbon aging here. This is a collector's choice redemption set, draft picks redemption set. These were really popular back in the day. You could get like all-star redemption sets. So this is the top 10 draft picks, and probably my most despised draft pick, RIP, is Eric Montross. Great UNLV player. He was not the player the Celtics needed at the time, and then he ended up being a bust anyways. But I was really just like a local kid, just collecting with no real vision. You were watching ESPN highlights. trying to figure out who you liked. The Celtics were hot garbage back then, so I was collecting a lot of San Antonio Spurs, were sort of my secondary team. I saw a meme the other day that if you were a kid in the 90s and you didn't have a team to collect, you collected the Seattle Mariners and the Charlotte Hornets. That was so true for me because Alonzo Mourning was my rookie.
Right.
But the last thing I'll say is I do have with me the first insert set I ever completed. And sorry, I'm just sort of padding here while I find it in a binder. So the first insert set I ever completed was, and I'll show you the Celtics card in it. And I traded for all these cards. And this was like, I felt mature at the time. Like I was in the neighborhood, we were grinding away. So in 94, 95 Flair, and I started on it because Dominique Wilkins had a Celtics card in it. Just such a 90s card right here. Just a 6-card insert set called Superstars. I'm sure I was looking at the Beckett odds of this stuff. But this was the first ever insert set that start to finish, I identified it. I had the Beckett, I checked them off, and I went through the neighborhoods for probably took me like a year and a half or so to trade for all of these. I'm sure they weren't hard to pull, but back then we weren't ripping boxes. We were ripping a pack or two at a time, and your buddy down the street might, rip a pack or two at a time, and you would try and get the key rookies and trade for stuff. So I don't know, just the way Ryan was talking last week just made me want to go down nostalgia lane a little bit and then see, if anybody that hangs out with us or any of you guys have similar stories about what life was like as you collecting young versions of you were collecting cards or what drew you into the card collecting, space.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask I know we're not all necessarily junk wax kids or whatever, but I think I hear stories from back in those days when like parents were hoping they would hold like boxes of 1990 Skybox or whatever, and then hoping that it would like pay for their retirement or whatever. Yeah, exactly. There you go. So was that the same like in the later 90s, in the mid to late 90s? Was that the same? Was it?
So I can only speak from like my family's perspective, and Ryan, I don't know if your family was collecting at all. I don't know when Aaron Celia was a pitcher for the Red Sox. Probably his rookie season was around 92. I distinctly remember getting an Aaron Celia Upper Deck rookie in a stocking for Christmas, and my family being like, "You hold on to that one. You don't trade that." I also grew up with those same family members being like, don't get over your skis, kid. Like cards are only worth what people are willing to pay for them, right? So they were like very realistic. But my uncle collected as a kid. He had signed Ted Williams baseballs. He had vintage rookies. And in the 80s, that stuff did spike. And there was no track record to look back on. Like we can look back on now. I think some of us have like a jaded perspective of the current hobby because we can look back and be like, guys, we've been there. We've done that. There's 30, 40, 50 years of data to say, slow down the hype of some of this stuff, right? In the 80s, there wasn't that train. It was all of a sudden these cars from the 50s, 60s, and 70s were spiking because it just became popular. So my family was both ways about it. Personally, I did not experience that into the mid-90s. I really felt the slowdown of the hobby. But I was also getting older, right? So me and my brothers, once we were driving, we weren't going to cut through the woods to the neighborhood, go play basketball, and bring our cards with us in a backpack. So my lifestyle changed, but also just sort of cards in my inner circle of like my family and my cousins just sort of dropped off the table, with the exception of my brother and I, who would like randomly pick up a pack at Target or something, in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I don't know if it was really the trend of the entire market or just what I was experiencing as an individual at that time.
I'd chime in here and just say that I had a similar experience where anywhere you go, like a shop, and I can't really remember going to shows, but I remember going to like card shops and comic shops, and everything then was like, yeah, buy this, it's going to be worth a bunch of money. And I do remember people like buying full boxes just to keep, like 90 Skybox or something. Oh yeah, this stuff's going to be worth a ton, in 20 years, and I can put my kids through college and stuff like that. We all saw how that turned out. And I do see a similar trend nowadays, but back then it was just so much base cards. It was like your sets were just all base cards. And it really wasn't until like the late 90s where they actually started producing some of the more rare, like serial numbered cards, or like the stuff that people go after today. But for me, it was always just about having fun. And so I could kind of segue, if you guys are cool with it, into some of my stuff if you want. Because I actually started collecting baseball cards. That was like the first thing I'd collected after, like I mentioned last week, like Garbage Pail Kid cards. But a big thing for me, and you can see some of my Boston lineage coming through, Steve, is I saved a bunch of my tickets from like going to Red Sox games and stuff.
That's awesome, man. I like that. That wasn't even on my radar back then.
Yeah. So like I got a bunch of Red Sox. My family is actually a lot of them are from Cincinnati. So I went to a bunch of Reds games as well. Here's some like cards I stuck in there for whatever reason. But yeah, that's really when I transitioned out of Garbage Pail Kids cards into like, real cards. Not necessarily because I still collect Garbage Pail Kids cards, so I can't trash it too hard. I did go after a lot of baseball stuff. So this is like a big binder, just probably a lot of my cards from when I was a kid. Pete Rose. My dad actually went to school with Pete Rose. So I want to say he's got some autographs or something in a binder, him. So I collected him a bit back in the day. And these are just like players, we got Kyle Ripken, King Griffey Jr. Obviously, people are super hyped on him. That was your investment card, right? If you pulled one of those, you'd want to keep on a hold of it because it's going to be worth a ton of money. Nolan Ryan, So this is like kind of how I started getting into cards, because in the late 80s, basketball really wasn't a big thing. You had 86 Fleer, but it wasn't really that hot at the time. And then I would say basketball didn't even really get hot until like the early 90s, especially 92 with Shaq. That was like a huge year for basketball. That's probably when I got into basketball, was around the Shaq era. Yeah, when the finest stuff started coming out. So just to go into basketball just a little bit, this is a pull from when I was a kid. So this is the 93 Scoring Kings Jordan. This was in a screw down for a very long time. And I only submitted cards once, and I submitted to the Beckett through like a breaker that I got involved with, like actually a local breaker to Denver back in mid 2010s. And so I submitted that with him, and I didn't know anything about grading. I thought, oh man, this thing's going to get a high grade. And it would have if it wasn't in a screw down, because it's got a big crease through the middle. It's a surface crease, but I don't know if it shows up on camera, but there's this line running through right here. You guys can see it at all.
You can see that,
right there. You can see it. Mm-hmm. And it's surface, so it doesn't go through the card. It's not like bent or anything, but it's definitely from that big screw down that I had it in. So
still got an 8, huh?
Yeah, still got an 8 somehow, who knows. But yeah, that's kind of one I had when I was a kid. And then I've showed these off before, but these giant player binders, it's actually from our Instagram photo today. This is a ridiculous sized player binder, but it's got Jordan and Magic Johnson and Robert Parrish, just all the players that I collected back then. That was when I first got back into collecting again in the 2010s. I just took all my bins of crap and threw them in here and sorted through them and just had a really good time. So that's where a lot of my childhood stuff ended up.
I'm impressed that you held on to it, because I was going through some of my old binders today, and I've got a couple of I still have a couple of just like binded up factory sets that my mom got me, and I still have a couple of like the baseball, like Upper Deck every year. I mean, most companies did, but every year they must have been I had 3 brothers, so they must have been like buy 1 get 3 free or something. She would always get us the Upper Deck base sets that never had the SP cards, that never had the Jordan card or any of like the variations. It just had the base set. So I still have those stacked up in the corner of a closet somewhere. But I did clear out a lot of like my like hoops base sets and stuff that I would have collected as a kid. I just got rid of them when I moved. I didn't keep all of it. It was too much stuff.
Part of the goal with that was actually to downsize like 3 to 4 giant bands of cards. So I was like, we can't keep having these in the garage or like moving with them and having to lug them everywhere. So part of that whole effort of organizing them was to actually downsize the ridiculous amount of cards I just had from when I was a kid. It was not only my cards, but my brother's cards as well. So,
right.
Yeah, probably threw out, oh man, like 5-6 big ass trash bags full of stuff.
Wow.
Have you ever seen what's the documentary that about the guy that goes back and he starts researching about the 91 Griffey, and then he goes into the whole, his dad was in the industry. I forget the name of the documentary. It's not King of Cards. I forget what it's called, but I'll find it. And at the end of it, they just have like it's almost like a ritual where they all open junk wax above a bonfire and they just flip the cards in one after another. And it's like, it just really hits home for me, because it's like, there was just so much of that stuff. We collected back then. We all had, I remember my brother was renovating his basement, and he had like all of our old childhood like dressers and stuff down in one room, and he opened all the drawers. That's where he had stuffed all his cards when he became an adult. So he literally had like what used to be my underwear drawer just full of cardboard. Then he like opened the next one where would have been t-shirts just full of cardboard. And yeah, we've all been there, Ryan, for sure.
Yep.
Ryan, I love the mention of your grandfather as a big inspiration into how you kind of had grew a collector's eye, and you kind of got that gene. Maybe like when it's the rest of your guys' turns, you can mention like, who specifically was it that made you get that itch in the beginning for whatever you collected. But if I can maybe segue into mine, my big brother Michael, I'm one of 8 kids, by the way. And my older brother Michael was the one who was really into collecting. My dad, I don't think, has owned anything he would qualify as a thing in his life. My mom kind of had that collecting gene a little bit, and then my brother Michael did, and he passed it down to me. Stuff like Pokemon cards, definitely baseball. I think that was probably the biggest in the beginning. And I only really got out of baseball 2 years ago before I got married, and I kind of transitioned to basketball, and I don't have much of my baseball collection anymore. But so I'm just bringing up some memories of back then, like riding your bike to Main Street and using whatever quarters and coins you can find around the house when I'm like 10 years old, and get as many packs as I can. My parents would be nice and take me sometimes, mainly my mom. But my brother Michael was such a big inspiration to me, and he always had this much cooler, many more years to it binder that he would carry around. And this was the late 90s, early 2000s. So when I was just learning about these guys, and I only really knew Derek Jeter and McGuire and Sosa and Bonds, when I would see holographics of those in his binder, it would be so cool, and I wanted to get what he had. The main card, I think, to me was like, me and my other brothers wanted it so bad, but he would never give it up, would be Metal Universe 1999, Bernie Williams.
Nice.
I love the Metal Universe 98 and 99 in particular. But that's definitely by far like the white whale card of collecting when I was a kid, because my brothers didn't have it and only he did. So in my case, if you guys see when I post sometimes on my page, I do have a few baseball cards, and this is definitely right up on top. It's today only worth $5 or so, but to us back then it was worth everything, and we just couldn't get our hands on it because he was the only one. Some other funny memories, and I'll try to be quick here, but Shane Spencer, I remember thinking of him as like Mickey Mantle back in the day when he was coming up and he had like that big run. And to me, like my whole family is Yankees fans, and we were all saying, that Shane Spencer was going to be like the next Mickey Mantle. And I just remember I just know how stupid that is looking back. There's a lot of guys have runs, but that, was a big talk in my house back then. And also the full pages that Ryan was showing, and I really love displaying my cards like that. And it was because of my brother, but mainly from the store I had growing up in Rosslyn, New York. It's called Bookmarks. no one here is probably familiar with Long Island, but he's the only place I've ever been to that have full page binders of like 3 or 4 guys, and he had maybe like 300 stars, and you would have them around the perimeter of the store. So I would go in and kind of flip through them, and to see like a full page of Randy Johnsons when I only have like 2 Randy Johnsons back then. And he had all the shiny ones and all the different sets that I never see packs of, because you'd only see Upper Deck and Topps Base basically at the stationery store in town. So, you know, to be able to put together these pages over time as I got older and had a little bit more money has been great. But that original store, Bookmarks, is definitely the inspiration for that, the main inspiration. And my prized possession when I was 12 was a piece of Mickey Mantle's bat in 2007 Topps. It was 107, I think, the number on his back. He wore 7, right?
I wouldn't be able to tell you. Oh yeah, Steve's saying yeah.
Yeah. So
Great Seinfeld reference.
that was my prized possession back then. And when I started pulling stuff that was actually numbered, I remember feeling like, you know, this is amazing, and I just kept collecting ever since. But two other things. I miss the stats on the back of cards. Baseball cards still has them, but basketball cards needs it. How expensive is it really? Come on. How expensive is it to put those back there? You're fanatics.
I'm sure cost is not the issue.
So what's the issue?
Effort. I feel like it's effort.
Find space in the back of a card for LeBron James's 23 years of stats.
They could fit. I mean, we used to see Julio Franco and all these other guys. Now they made it fit, especially in 2004 and that era in baseball. They would put so many years on. But I just feel like they could totally do that. The other thing is, and Steve may get a kick out of this, but one old memory I remember is getting X-Men cards, which I thought were so cool because I was watching the cartoon at the time, in chicken nuggets. There was X-Men cards in chicken nugget packages. So, I mean, I eat the nuggets if they made it, but I would just buy it and then just open it at home and leave the chicken nuggets in the fridge and get these X-Men cards. Do you recall that at all, Steve?
I don't remember specifically chicken nuggets ones, but Tony's Pizzas and Post cereal and Ding Dong. I mean, food and cards went together heavily in the 90s through early.
I feel like it was more in the 80s and early 90s, but I guess that was like the last time I really saw it. But to me, that was so cool. It's like, we got to get these chicken nuggets like every time we come. Like, I need to complete the whole set. But before I move on here, I'll show you guys a little bit my only baseball card binder. If anyone knew me a couple of years ago, Ryan, I had a few. I had like
nice.
50 plus.
Downsized.
This is the original cover I had on my binder back then. Yankees versus Red Sox on a piece of paper. It's starting to brown. It's so old. But this was made, I think, in 2004. I still have it's in good condition, the binder. Seams are very good. And these need to be updated, as you can see. The numbers on, I think it's Cy Young's, MVPs,
the stats,
and World Series wins. Yeah, they need to be updated a little bit more so for the Red Sox. But just to show you guys a couple pages, I tried to keep just the cards from back then when I was collecting with my older brother, who no longer collects at all. You know, so like early 2000s. And I added a couple things that would have looked nice in that one binder. But I still have some full player pages. Wade Boggs on the Yankees.
Yeah, awesome.
Huge Wade Boggs guy. Lots of other Yankees full pages. Clemens, El Duque, huge. Derek Jeter, of course. That 2000 set. That was like the beginning for me. You know, like contemporarily. Unbelievable set. Bunch of other Yankees, Tino, A-Rod, Rivera. But I definitely wanted to keep players on other teams too. Like the Devil Rays, Wade Boggs. There's something about the old guy with 3,000 hits that was just so like prestigious to me back then. And plenty others like Gary Sheffield. I may not have them on every team anymore, but I do have probably 40 pages of some of my favorite guys. Here's a Astros autograph of Carlos Beltran. Didn't see many of those. That's a contemporary autograph. And so I don't collect baseball anymore, but I have a lot of those really nostalgic cards that I truly loved. And while I don't collect and I just focus on basketball now, if I ever want that itch, to feel how I felt from 99 to 2001, I always open up this one binder. And that's the only binder I'll need, I think, for baseball.
Yeah, it's cool that you kept the ones that meant a lot to you. That's very cool. Actually,
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff kind of is percolating in my head. So a couple main things, because you guys, Ryan and Tim, just showed a lot of binders that had full pages of player cards, like player pages. And I know, Tim, you still do that. I guess, my question is, what has changed? Why are largely people not doing that anymore? I mean, I don't know if it's, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I think it's rare that a collector and for example, Ryan, those aren't necessarily all Nuggets cards that were in your binders. And I don't know if you were a Nuggets fan back in the 90s or not, and Tim, I know you had a lot of Yankees cards, but there were some cards in there of players who weren't on the Yankees. What has changed in the sense that we're not collecting cards like that anymore, of player pages and things like that? I know that quantity has decreased, like people tend to purchase less cards over more. So I don't know. I guess that's just, I just want to put that out there. Like what is different now about why that's happening?
If I could jump in, I think that the incentivizing on YouTube and by fanatics to basically treat it as gambling, or it's more of like, how much money can I make from this card? Most of the people we know who are in this, a lot of them are collectors, but I would say most of the people you come across at a show are just trying to make some money or just trying to flip something. And that's just a massive incentive for a lot of people, which, is nice that people pay attention to the hobby, but it also, I think, takes away from the hobby itself. Like collecting baseball cards or Pokemon cards back in the day, I used to be able to go to the pool, and underneath the tunnel at the pool, there used to be like 25 kids on the ground with binders. Everyone knew a place like that in the late 90s and early 90s. I wasn't there, early 2000s. And nowadays it's like you meet up with people to do a specific transaction, or you meet up with people at a store, for the purpose of buying and selling, which is good. But I feel like there's not a lot of places to just kind of like the hobby hangout. Just kind of, if we were all here, we could put our binders on a table and just talk. You know what I mean? And I feel like there's not a lot of venues for that. And that's one of the reasons why I really like Hobby Hangout. You kind of just really enjoy the hobby with real collectors. We like to make money sometimes, but I think at the same time, you can tell everyone here really has a huge passion for what they do. And it's not just, let me buy this, and, I could sell this at a certain point.
I mean, I'd like to hear from Adam in a second about like what it was like for him getting in it and like what his childhood collecting was. But I think when you talk about differences in collecting styles, Joey, from like our childhood and putting together pages and binders and stuff, you also didn't have, like, I just went to ComC, so it's not even close to a full checklist, and there's 357 different Derek White Celtics cards, right? So just the sheer quantity of, so if I want something, I can't look at all that. So my collecting now, even if I was a kid, is going to be to get like a couple that I like. Whereas back in the 90s, if I wanted a Dominique Wilkins card, because all of a sudden he's coming from another team and is going to be an all-star for a couple of years in the team and blah, 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 there's one or two cool inserts. Maybe I go back and I want to see, like, can I find a show his 86 rookie, et cetera, et cetera. There just wasn't, even though there was competition because there was more options, and there just wasn't the abundance of different cards to chase. And maybe you sought after saving up your pennies to go get a base studio portrait style card, I don't even know what they're called, or a refractor, or a Skybox Emotion base card. It just was such a different atmosphere. And yes, there's all the negative stuff that, Tim was talking about and Abra's saying very appropriately in the chat right now about the monopolies and all that other stuff. But it was just a different environment too. There's competition while also not having 10,000 cards of a player per year in a checklist, right? Your Beckett covered a decade and a half in a magazine, right? If you were to print out a checklist just for 24, 25 basketball cards, it would be Santa's list of the, naughty and good kids rolling down the street forever. So I just think it's tough to, just like in sports, it's tough to compare eras. I think in collecting it is too. It's not only are we, adults now versus kids, but it's just the money was different. The approach was different. The online access didn't exist, et cetera, et cetera.
One thing, and then I'll throw it to you, Adam, that I think that you're right, Steve, but I think that if anything, that could just open things up for us to make our, page and binder player collecting even more robust, right? I mean, you have so many options that you get to pick what actually appeals to you aesthetically, in terms of photography, in terms of the design, in terms of the back, in terms of the design elements and things like that. I mean, like, Tim, and you can speak to this. I mean, you have players modern and from the 90s and whatever that you make pages of. And I'm sure some of the ultra modern people, you have to decide between, like Steve was saying, 300, 400, 1,000 different unique cards to choose from to put into a 9-page binder sheet. But isn't that great that you get to sift through all that and say, okay, I have so many options. I'm going to love 9 of them. I just got to find the 9 I love.
Exactly. Like, to me, like, I'm not rushing like I did with baseball. I would get like 16 full pages a month, and now I get like 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, but each page, like today I did Kelvin Cato, and it's like, it's like my museum, my gallery. We're at Kelvin Cato next week. We're at Tyreek Evans, or we're at Craig Elo, and you get to find, in your opinion, the coolest, the 9 coolest Craig Elos you can find. And I think that that's a fun process. And even for the little guys like Kelvin Cato or Dwayne Coswell, shout out to the Kings.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have what I mean? Like, they had 500 blocks. They had 500 blocks. So, they're in the club.
Yeah.
But I think just you'll never see a Dwayne Coswell or a Kelvin Cato post. And I it's cool to dive into their journey more, in detail. And a lot of times I don't know, all of it. You know what I mean? I have a good idea of most players. But then you learn different things. There's different stories. Like, you hear about Chris Mills going in front of a bus, and after getting in a fight with someone with his car, he pulled out in front of a bus and demanded that they were, that the person in the team bus get out and fight. You read about stories like that, and I think that that's cool to, if I can include any cool tidbits, I learn about them, and so people can learn with me. I think it's fun. So it's definitely fun to put a 9-page together.
Yeah, I love that background that you put into things. And I think that your point about social media I think that your point about not being able to hang out with your buddies in town and like pull out your binders and look through them, that being replaced by sharing your cards with on social media is a great point. I mean, it's just not sexy to put up that cool 50-cent insert or whatever base card. Because that's just, nobody cares about that. Like, you want to see the cool autographs or patches or unique stuff, and that's what people are going to react to and respond to. So I think that's a great point. I think that does kind of lean towards or lean against collecting in that same way. Again, not that it's a bad thing. I just think it's an interesting thing. But anyway, Adam, I know we're like right here. You've been so patient, and at the very end here,
I've got a minute and a half. Just kidding.
Take your time. I'll give you 2. Where are you at? What was your, like, where do you feel like you fit in with all this, or bringing something else up? Like, what are your thoughts?
So obviously, I'm much younger than most of you. I don't know. I forget how old Tim is, but we're probably pretty similar. I was born in '94, but I didn't really get into sports cards until a little later. So I feel like a lot of the maybe camaraderie or youthfulness of the hobby I spent like you did with Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh and things like that. And even like to touch on what Ryan was talking about last week, they re-releases of like Wacky Packages and Garbage Pail Kids around that, I don't know, 2004, maybe 5 range, something like that. I remember buying those. So like all the time I would feel like kind of all the periods you guys have talked about, I spent kind of avoiding sports cards and buying non-sports or TCG type stuff. So a lot of my kind of upbringing or origin would be around that. I didn't really get into the sports side of things until probably late 05, maybe early 06, something like that. And my grandmother gave me some Pete Rose cards, almost identical binder to what Ryan was showing earlier. It had a countless amount of like 87 tops with like the wood border, and like 86 the black and white borders, and like those types of cards. And that was kind of intriguing to me because she thought they were cool. She had them since then. And obviously Pete Rose in Cincinnati, and I live in Kentucky, but a stone's throw from Cincinnati. The Reds are a big deal. Kentucky basketball is a big deal. The NBA is irrelevant. I don't truly, until I got to become almost an adult, I didn't even meet NBA fans around this area. It's all college basketball. Like the Pacers are 2 hours away, and I've never once met a Pacer fan, I don't think. So it's just funny. The sports environment of this area is very much Cincinnati Reds and NCAA college basketball. Whether it's
I always wondered why an NBA team wouldn't work over there.
Yeah, I mean, we've had options for sure, but yeah, it's all basketball's huge, but it's all basically kind of stemming around NCAA. But for me, I got into sports earlier, and nobody in my family is really super into sports other than my grandmother. She was into them, and I got into sports, but never did the cards. I don't know why it didn't click earlier, but it never did, so I never messed with them. Probably because all my friends were still doing the Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and that was more than just collecting them. You could play with them and do more with it. So at that age, it was probably more important to me to do that. But I was always into sports since probably 99-ish. I became a sports fan. Bengals, Celtics, Reds, all in that same time period. Still the teams I root for now, but like I said, sports in this area is directly like Kentucky Wildcats and Bengals, so it's complete Reds, Bengals, so it's very different than what I collect in terms of Celtics or basketball, NBA. But yeah, I started out with some of that 80s stuff that my grandmother had given me, and I bought some base Topps packs. I didn't really pull out anything, unfortunately, but it all stemmed from there. Some of the older guys from that kind of stuff. That's kind of where my interest lied, was with the legends and stuff from that point on.
Yeah, I'd agree with the Kentucky. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say two things that come to mind. One, just to be a wise ass, is so your grandmother gave you the cards that I was originally collecting as a kid.
Well, my grandmother was born during the Depression, so she was
no, for sure. But just when you said, like, I was like, yeah, I was opening packs of those wood bordered cards, like,
sure.
But it's interesting because I am a bit older than you, and I was, in high school and college when you're talking about the time you were collecting with your friends, and when I was the same age you would have been at that point, it was all ESPN and sports highlights, and then in The Simpsons and stuff. But go to school, and that was what school was about. So then it carried over into what we were doing with our money as paper boys and stuff. When you were that age, Pokemon and TCG were everywhere. I mean, every record store had Pokemon stuff. Nintendo was Pokemon. The first premium packs I ever saw someone buy were not sports cards. I mean, other than like Skybox Emotion, they were $40 packs of Magic the Gathering. That my friend, his father gave him a $100 bill for his birthday present. He went straight to the mall and he bought 2 premium packs of TCG. So I was at the back end of that, but having brothers that are younger, that's what your childhood was as far as the pop culture influence. And then they had collectibles that aligned with that. So while it's very different, it's also in some regards, very similar too, as far as, what you were doing socially, and then having a market to kind of go out and collect. And like you said, it was more interactive. You weren't just trading the stuff, you were playing and video games and all that other stuff. So it was just interesting as you were talking. I was thinking about the parallels, not only the differences.
Yeah, it's definitely different than like for sports, and you guys had a limited amount of access to anything beyond the sporting side of it. There wasn't a trading card game when you were that age.
Right.
And for me, like, there was games you could play like on a video game level. There was the TCG itself. There were TV shows. Like, there was all of it interactive with that kind of audience. So it kind of was more captivating as a kid. So almost all of my youthful interactions of cards or collectibles is around those types of things. By the time I started doing sports, people were starting to kind of pivot off into different things. And I knew people over the course of time, obviously, that did buy sports cards, but it was never that community aspect that I felt as a youthful child with TCG.
Has nostalgia bit you yet? I know you're almost a completist sometimes, so you might want to stay away from some of that stuff, but have you gone back and wanted to get like any of your favorite cards or any of your favorite games or anything like that?
I've looked at some like the buying like the sealed games or something, just have a few games that I thought were cool back in the day. But I actually still have pretty much all the stuff from when I was a kid. I haven't been able to find some of the Pokemon stuff, but the later Yu-Gi-Oh ones I found during COVID in a box in my basement. So I still have like I know Tim showed some last week, but like the Dark Magician Girl, Blue Eyes White Dragon, like all that that kind of stuff I found in a drawer in a kind of a tub. I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And then I found some of the Pokemon stuff, but I remember having more than what I found. So I don't know if at some point I traded Pokemon for Yu-Gi-Oh or what exactly the lineage there was, but I found some, but definitely not the full collection.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like, and I think, Tim, did you also said that you collected Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh as a kid too?
Oh, yes, heavy.
Yeah. It's like everything you guys talked about. I think Ryan and Steve, I completely agree. It's like the trading, the pulling out your cards and like playing with them or whatever, I'm sure you guys
playing like the DS games or like the regular advanced games, like, and then there's the show. Everything was so immersive. It wasn't just you watch the game, you can play it whenever you want. You don't have to wait till 8 p.m. to watch the Yankees. Like all the kids were bringing these to school, to the pool, to the park, and it really was just a scene back then. And, of its own right, baseball had its scene, but this was really just so popular with everyone our age. Anyone born in the mid, to late 90s, like really was just fully immersed in the prime of Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, no, totally. It's like every day after school, I'd come home and watch Yu-Gi-Oh on TV, right? I mean, it's just the way it was for sure.
Saturday mornings, 11 o'clock.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But there's one more thing that I think had come up that I wanted to ask about. And I think you guys had mentioned, Steve and Ryan, that like during the junk wax era and in the late 80s, early 90s, everyone was like, Steve, you mentioned that rookie card that you got that your family told you to keep safe because so that when it got really valuable, it could pay your way through college or whatever. And you guys mentioned that stuff. And Ryan, you alluded to how it seems very similar to the way things are today. And that's kind of what I wanted to ask about. It's like, people think back on the 80s and 90s as like a time of a better time in collecting. Are we that different now than we were back then?
Yeah.
I mean, we are.
We are. It's in some regards, you can look at the mass reproduction of it all, except my Alex Rodriguez Electric Diamond short print rookie was never, ever going to sell for $10,000. But Adam can just find a random insert that legitimately sold for $42,000. So the back then, this is going to be such an old guy uphill yelling at kids to not get off his lawn, but the money didn't drive it back then, even though it did. There were shady deals at shows and people would take advantage of each other, but the money just didn't flow like it did now. And there wasn't the marketing thing. So the reason some of the stuff is people look back on those things that they couldn't get back then, the PMGs, the autographics, etc., is the nostalgia, and there's money. I can now buy that. I want to go buy it. I want that sealed box. I want that card I couldn't get. We're not going to see that. Now, these cards are, people think they're alternative assets. They're putting money. But what we were getting back then to hold on to was never, there was no track record of those cards at, our poor kid level of like, we're just buying pack at the gas station, selling. And people talk about even the people that were buying Exquisite when it dropped in 0304 at $500 a pack, and it didn't jump. What's happening now, and whether it's market manipulation or the gambling aspect, is so vastly different, even though on the surface it looks like more mass production, low quality, now it's slab everything too. That didn't exist back then. So there is the volume that could be considered junk wax, except this stuff's not selling at junk wax prices. Like, this stuff is getting bought up by breakers. It's getting ripped through. It's getting flipped. There's fraudulent sales of it that can be tracked of, pseudo marketplace. So I think it's a lot more concerning, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's people that lost their shirt back in the 90s. But the money that's flowing right now is much different. It just creates a whole different, in my opinion. Yeah, like Aber's calling it the hyperinflated junk wax era. Like this money that's in it, it makes it a whole different stratosphere of, and people aren't going to look back and be like, oh, I could never get that Chef Curry, Magnet, they're going to forget these cards existed because there's a million different shiny, weird AI stuff out there right now. Whereas back then, like if you knew that a Jordan PMG existed, it's because everybody talked about it and you never saw it. Now everybody sees these things, and there's actually probably more supply than there is demand, but there's a whole different market for selling them that's different. So I'm a hard no that's not the same, and I don't think we can. I think the crash is going to could potentially be a lot scarier. On the surface it looks the same, but I don't think it is. I think it's a much different like marketplace, hobby, etc.
Yeah, and I think you could see it with the release of. I think you could see it with the release of Midnight. Like, I think we were all disappointed with Topps Chrome. I was trying to make the most I can do with it. But it was an ugly set. It wasn't a very memorable set other than some rookies. You know what I mean? And I think that, they shouldn't be emphasizing this basically gambling aspect, $700 a box for Topps Midnight. You know what I mean? They should be pushing out Stadium Club. They should be pushing out Finest or Bowman Chrome, like some cards that can make this year memorable. Instead, they go for that pretty much right away at midnight.
Those are $700 a box? Holy.
It's like $650.
Yeah,
it's like, and by the way, one box is 3 autographs, which is great. 3 autographs. If you're just hunting autographs, but it's one pack, 7 cards.
Yeah, it seems to be very focused on autographs. I personally don't like the design. I think they kind of look ugly. But if you're an autograph chaser, it's cool, but not for $700, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, I thought I could get some singles, but I don't know if I'll be able to because it's just like there's 7 cards in a box.
Wait a couple years, man. You'll be able to get.
Yeah, exactly. It'll come down eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, if you guys are appalled
at
700,
hold on. I'm going to interrupt here because $700 a box, and did you just say 7 cards?
You heard me.
That's crazy. $100 a card, and if you what are the chances you're gonna not only just meet the threshold of $700 breaking?
And I don't think people are gonna be dying for midnight.
Wow, and that's probably just like a mid-tier.
It's not that pretty looking either. You know what I mean? Maybe there might be 1 or 2 inserts I'd love to get my hands on, but it's like it's not a good looking set. There's too much going on.
That's insane.
They're already flipping for more than the drop price too. A guy that I work with always is looking for the next scheme, and he bought 5 boxes for I think it was $700 each and flipped them for $5,000.
Oh yeah,
so $1,000 a box.
I think it was Topps Chrome Sapphire sold for $1,000 a box at the release, and I think they're reselling for $5,000.
Yeah, cases are 50,000 of that. Yeah,
30 cards of Topps Chrome for $1,000.
Wow.
Crash is going to be scary, guys. That's all I got to say about it.
That's
when this stuff crashes, people are going to lose their shirts, and they have. We just don't hear about it a lot because, when people burn out of the hobby, they get divorced from spending too much on their credit cards, stuff like that. They're out, man. They're not going to tell you the story. We're going to hear, unfortunately, a lot more of that. You do hear it occasionally, and it's just a scary time. In my opinion, it's too much focus on the flip. Especially like I've been watching these videos of like Pokemon scalpers and stuff, people that hang out in front of the stores and they're fighting and they're, like just being absolute morons with this stuff. And it's just like, guys, it's cards. At the end of the day, it's cards. It's just pieces of paper. I mean, that are pressed together. I mean, that's essentially what you're buying. When you get into this whole realm of like what it's going to be worth in the future, and everybody's driving the investment value and how it's going to be so much more money when you're 10 years 20 years from now, that's all the same talk that we heard about in the 80s. It literally is the same stuff. And the difference now is that you have serial number cards, you have flashy cards, you have autograph cards, you have patch cards. So the cards themselves are a lot nicer, and I love them myself, but it's the same scenario where we're just printing and printing and printing and printing, and maybe it's not a 300 card base set and that's all you got, and there's thousands and thousands upon them, but you're gonna have thousands and thousands of all this other stuff too. So
no, it's a great point.
It's
like if a box of 89 hoops is like $30 or something, that's a lot different than if you think it might be the next big thing that's gonna pay for your retirement versus a $1,000 box of midnight or chrome or whatever. That's a great point. It's a good point. Cool.
I could go on that, so I left it a little short.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we could, but we don't want to just scream at clouds right now. So
yeah, but try to end it on a positive note. Yeah, I think this was a fun chat, and I hope you guys kind of enjoyed it, because at the end of the day, I hope that we influence people to just like collecting for collecting. And that's kind of what this channel is all about. Like when I joined in, me, I can be a bit negative and talking down about the hobby, and I could go into that all day, but it's kind of refreshing to come in here and just talk with you guys and talk about cards that we enjoy and have fun putting together. So I think that's why I love chatting with you guys every week.
Yeah, it's great. It kind of brings that community back. Like I was saying, we all have our binders out on the table and we're just talking cards. We're not talking about, did you hear how much I made from this? You should get this and get, you can flip this to get this much money back in a week. All that stuff. I just feel like it really, you can make money in that if you're quick, but it's just not fun. You're not having fun. Sometimes I hear a young kid pull a card and it's a really nice card. And obviously, if it's thousands of dollars, maybe you want to sell it. But it's just like so many kids just are right away looking to sell it rather than, collect and keep a binder and have players to collect. It's tough to see. But this hobby boards and
if there was a market for Cedric Lewis autos back when I was a kid, I would have done the same damn thing though. So part of it is, and whoever the modern day Cedric Lewis is, I bet his auto sells for $150 right now. So part of it is, I think, the market creates things. So we can't blame the kids for everything, because I like, honestly, if I could have walked into it, my mom buys me a pack and I pull this guy and I have no connection to him, I would have walked into a show the next week and sold that for sure. 100%. We got to wait. These values drive everything differently for sure.
Yeah.
Anybody want a Cedric Lewis auto? Anybody? I'll go to Whatnot.
Send it over.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. And I appreciate, the hobby boards and being here for the same reason. And I'll just say I always am like annoying and about emphasizing this is why more people need to be that love collecting, need to do the thing of sharing cards, even if they're not rare and even if they're not expensive and stuff like that, because an entrant into the hobby should see more of that than the scalpers and the flippers and the $1,000 profits and stuff like that, if we want people in the hobby that actually enjoy collecting. So, I mean, that's just how it's going to happen. And so hopefully, like Ryan said, hopefully, we can contribute to that. And this is an avenue for people to do that. And that's why we always want everyone to come on and share their cards and share their thoughts and all that stuff. All right. I think that's probably a good place to end. So thank you everyone for hanging out, and thanks for sharing your old stories and things like that. Thank you, Mark and Gary, Sean and Abra, for, I don't know about anyone else, but I just I've been reading this whole chat the whole time and having to restrain myself from cracking up. And sometimes I snuck out a chuckle. Yeah, it has been great.
Yeah, this was a fun one, guys.
Yeah. So thank you all. Thank you everyone who's listening now or later. We will talk to you guys soon, and keep sharing your cards and hanging out. See you guys.
See ya.
See ya.